How PVC can be recycled. Plastics permeate almost all aspects of our material lives, from our sports teams where we drink out of plastic water bottles to the grocery store where we load up plastic bags with food. Plastics are made of materials such as cellulose, coal, natural gas, salt, and crude oil. Plastic usually ends up in landfills and is very hard to recycle. However, some plastics, such as marine plastics, have a problem. They carry chemicals of a smaller size, and these chemicals can wreak havoc in biological systems. PVC, the plastic that we're going to be talking about, is polyvinyl chloride. But let's decode the name polyvinyl chloride. Polyvinyl chloride is composed of many vinyl monomers, or small molecules, that combine to make a huge compound. And these monomers, they make another monomer, but they also add a chlorine to them. Every single monomer now has a chlorine binded to it. With that done, PVC has a lot of advantages. It's extremely durable, it's cost efficient, and many of its applications continue to be used for a long time after its creation, lasting from 30 to 100 years for cables, pipes, and window profiles. So PVC requires less maintenance to enter the waste and enters the waste chain much more slowly than other plastics. But there's a problem. PVC products, they have excellent resource efficiency as well. And they have a minor additional consumption of energy, which is important. And they don't really need a lot of raw materials or chemicals to safeguard the efficiency of its applications. PVC is also used in roofing, horticultural, and other stable equipment, traffic management products, and flooring. PVC pipes help provide access to clean water and sanitations all over the world. PVC piping systems are easy to install and highly durable, enabling efficient irrigation even in remote areas and addressing global issues as soil and water scarcity, according to Vinyl Plus. However, PVC, like any other plastic, takes a really long time to degrade. After it degrades, of course, like any other plastic, you can still see smaller bits of the same plastic. And that's a problem. At this point, there are harmful substances that were released to the air from the already degraded plastic. The plastic is degraded again and again and again. After more than 100 years, that's a really long time. The plastic finally becomes microplastic. You might think that's a good sign, but that actually is even worse than the original state the plastic was in. And this is why. The microplastic is still dangerous, and regular plastic is much less likely. Microplastic, of course, like regular plastic, but less common, it could be eaten by an animal in the sea. And 100,000 of these animals die from microplastic each year. That's a lot. Unfortunately, it doesn't end there because the plastic still has to degrade again and again and again. After many thousand years, which has never been seen for plastic, the microplastic finally becomes small enough to be considered another category called nanoplastic. And tons and tons and tons of harmful substances were released. Finally, the piece of plastic is practically harmless to the environment. But remember those harmful substances? Those could impact the environment as well. Now, one of the raw materials of PVC, called DHP, is one of the very harmful chemicals and raw materials that are used in PVC production. To degrade PVC, DHP must be released in the air. And this is a very significant problem because it's a phthalate, which is used to soften plastics like PVC. What's its issues? It can cause cancer. It can cause effects on the male reproductive system, and it can affect development of children during pregnancy. That's a problem. It slowly leaches out of plastics and into the environment, typically into the air, but sometimes into the water, depending on where the PVC starts to degrade. It may also affect the soil and a ton of other organisms there. Now, who recycles PVC? Only two companies that I know of recycle PVC, Rica Vinyl and Neidhart Rohstoff. Vinyl Loop closed in 2018. And there is a very promising method from Stanford University, but it has not been applied to PVC, but it has been applied to another very harmful plastic called polystyrene. Vinyl Loop, let's talk about that. It is closed due to legal obligations, which will be discussed later. However, the company may be remade. What is Vinyl Loop? It's a proprietary process that uses an organic solvent to separate PVC from other compounds to make sure the solvent is not harmful to the environment. Vinyl Loop's three important steps are dissolving the PVC into one further processed and one insoluble part, separating the further processed part into a soluble and insoluble part, and the precipitation of the soluble part to recover the solvent. The problem with this process is that it was not able to remove quote-unquote low molecular weight phthalate plasticizers. The problematic compound here with most of these low molecular weight phthalate plasticizers, that's actually a fancy term for DEHP. But it can probably be added into the process, right? Except not really. No such method exists on a pilot or industrial scale due to economic issues. What types of economic issues? Here. A problem with this method is that you have to reduce the concentration up to 70 times for the PVC to have any commercial value. Oh no. And guess what? That's like 70 extraction cycles? Yeah, that's a lot of extraction cycles just for one piece of PVC. And thousands of pieces of PVC are typically recycled at a factory. Oh, that's a problem. And that its cost would, of course, be unrealistic. However, if the EU would have given vinyl its exemption to its very strict rules, and if it would continue its former operations as a new company, and if it partners with the Olympics maybe and other regions, then it may actually be profitable again. But we're not talking about DHP extraction in this process. Rica Vinyl was founded in 2003 as an organization which recycles PVC through the Vinyl Plus framework. It's the main contributor to Vinyl Plus targets and records how much PVC is recycled in Europe. Rica Vinyl recycles PVC through a semi-automated process and includes manually sorting out materials with PVC from materials without PVC. Shredding the materials into pieces of about 20 centimeters, washing the shredded pieces, isolating the PVC parts of the material, combining different qualities of PVC into one pile, grinding the PVC into pieces of about 1 centimeter each, and lastly, creating powder out of the pile. PVC can be recycled in small quantities with the help of Rica Vinyl, right? Except that real people do this process. And unfortunately, Rica Vinyl has a ton of restrictions about the regions, which could be a significant issue. It requires a contract with Rica Vinyl and is not possible outside of Europe. The contract also requires the recycler to label whether the waste is post-consumer or post-industrial, which regular people recycling PVC probably won't know. And it requires batches to be sent once a month for at least a year. Whoa. This method may also require a third-party audit. If there are more than 3,000 pounds 3,000 tons per year sent to Rica Vinyl by the recycler, which is paid by Rica Vinyl. However, there might be legal issues with this if the contract might be allowed outside of Europe. If there are fewer than 3,000 tons per year sent to Vinyl by the recycler, a Vinyl regional representative, which is only available in Europe, must audit once or twice a year. Nitrate Rostov has the same problem, except that it's even worse. You must contact them to recycle a sample, and they don't have any large-scale industrial plants designed for recycling large quantities of PVC. Before November 2018, it was actually possible to recycle most PVC within Italy with Vinyl Loop. Vinyl Loop, if it reopens, or if another company formed using the same process as Vinyl Loop, then PVC recycling will actually be possible with Vinyl Loop in the country where the new Vinyl Loop exists. If the new founders of the new Vinyl Loop decided to make new plants called Vinyl Loop City, then PVC will be easily recyclable over the entire country. If enough of these plants are made, then PVC will be recycled in Europe. And at some point, someone may make plants outside of Europe, which makes Vinyl Loop usable in regions like the US, which will make PVC recycling more common, and more people will start recycling PVC, which will be a very significant and groundbreaking step towards PVC recycling. Former employees of Vinyl Loop may decide to remake the company, or another company specialized in PVC recycling may reverse engineer Vinyl Loop's process and wait for the trademark to expire. The EU may then decide, after seeing that Vinyl Loop violates the law, to give Vinyl Loop an exception to its stringent regulations for only one thing, by allowing the DHP that remains in Vinyl Loop plastics to be transported to other factories exclusively for the reuse of DHP. However, we will need to conduct more studies using this method. The issue is we will need to conduct a study on how many times DHP from Vinyl Loop can be recycled. And for that, a new Vinyl Loop needs to open. Thank you. Bye.